I woke up that morning hoping, just once, I wouldn't be invisible. My 19th birthday. No party, no presents, no one knocking on my door with a smile. But I still brushed my hair, put on the jeans I'd kept clean all week, and whispered, "Happy birthday" to myself in the mirror like a secret only I cared about. In our house, birthdays were reserved for the golden ones. My sister Lindsay got her nails done and had friends over. My brother Drew got a new watch, dinner at his favorite steakhouse. Me? Last year, I got a vacuum cleaner Mom said I could borrow since I was always cleaning anyway. The year before that, silence. Still, I had hope. Stupid, aching hope. That maybe this year Dad would look me in the eyes and see something besides a burden. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. I stepped into the kitchen, heart pounding harder than it should. They were all there, Mom frying eggs, Lindsay scrolling her phone, Dad reading the sports section with his feet on the table. "Morning," I said. No one looked up. I opened the fridge, pretending to search for something just to fill the awkward quiet. That's when I saw it. A cake box. My breath caught. "Is that?" I asked, motioning toward it. Lindsay looked up and snorted. "Oh, that's for Josh. It's his birthday at school. We're dropping it off for his class." Josh. My cousin. Mom's sister's kid. 8 years old. Not even our household. I nodded, swallowed the lump rising like a betrayal in my throat, and shut the fridge softly. "Oh, come on," Lindsay groaned. "Are you seriously gonna pout because you didn't get a cake?" Dad finally glanced up. His face was already annoyed. "You're 19, Taylor. Grow up. You don't need cake." "No," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "but maybe a happy birthday would have been nice." Mom turned around, spatula still in hand. "Do you want eggs or not?" "I don't want anything," I said, backing toward the hallway. "Then stop acting like a damn victim," Dad barked, folding his paper loudly. "It's always something with you." That's when it cracked. "It's never anything with me," I said. "That's the point." "What's that supposed to mean?" he snapped. "It means I do everything right. I don't drink, I don't party, I've been saving for college, working double shifts. And living here rent-free while doing it," he cut in. "So don't start acting like some hero." I stared at him. This man who never asked how my shifts were going, never noticed when I skipped dinner so there'd be leftovers for Lindsay, who called me moody when I cried and lazy when I studied at night instead of scrubbing the floors. "Why do you hate me so much?" I asked quietly. His chair screeched back. He stood up, towering over me with that look he always gave when he wanted to make sure I felt small. "Don't you dare put that on me," he hissed. "You want to make this day about your drama? Go ahead, but don't do it in my house." I blinked. "Your house?" I whispered. "You heard me," he said, pointing toward the front door. "Get out." The room froze. "Dad!" Lindsay started, half laughing like it was a joke. "No. She wants attention? She can have it. Get your crap and get out, Taylor. Don't come crawling back when the world eats you alive." Mom turned away. She always did when it got ugly. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there and realized I'd been hoping for something from people who had already decided I wasn't part of their version of love. So I nodded. "All right," I said. "What?" "You said get out," I said, walking to my room. "So, I'm gone." He laughed like I was bluffing. "Yeah, okay. Let's see how long that lasts." I packed fast. A duffel bag, 2 changes of clothes, my apron from the diner, a notebook full of community college plans they never asked about. I left behind every childhood photo, every school trophy shoved in the closet, every trace of the girl who once wanted their approval. On my way out, I passed the cake box again, still sitting pretty on the counter. "Tell Josh I said happy birthday," I muttered. No one responded. I walked through the front door without looking back. They didn't stop me. Not that night, not the next day, not ever. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that the girl they told to get out on her 19th birthday wouldn't just survive. She would make sure the family that tossed her aside would live to regret the day they did. It started with silence. The kind that hurts more than words ever could. The first night, I slept at the 24-hour diner I worked at. The manager, Gloria, found me slumped in the break room, hugging my duffel bag like it was an anchor in a storm. She didn't ask questions, just handed me a hot coffee and said, "Sit, you're off the clock, kid." I wanted to cry, but I didn't. Something in me felt like if I let even one tear fall, I'd never stop. Within 3 days, I found a small room above a mechanic shop. The owner, Fred, had a sign that read, "Room for rent. No noise, no drama." I gave him my last $160. He took it without asking for more. That place had a mattress on the floor, one flickering light bulb, and mold climbing the corners like ivy. But to me, it was sacred. I was free. Free to think. Free to stop flinching. Free to wake up without hearing, "Don't touch that," or "That's not for you," or "Your sister needs it more." The first few weeks were survival. I picked up extra shifts, morning prep at the diner, evening cleaning at the rec center, weekends babysitting for a single mom I met through Gloria. I bought a burner phone, ate cold soup, showered at the gym across the street. I was invisible, but I had peace. Then, one day, I checked the college website again. That old dream I'd buried under their scorn. It whispered back. There was an open scholarship for community care workers, the same thing I'd wanted to do since I was 16. They laughed when I told them that. "Social work?" Dad scoffed. "You want to wipe strangers' tears for a living? Try wiping the table first." But I applied, wrote the essay in my room while rain tapped the tin roof like a heartbeat. I didn't tell anyone, not Gloria, not Fred, not even myself out loud. A month later, I got the email. Accepted. With full tuition. I stared at the screen, hand shaking. Then I laughed. The kind of laugh that bubbles out when you've been drowning quietly for years and suddenly remember what air feels like. And from that moment, I stopped surviving. I started planning. Not for vengeance, not at first. Just a future. But the more I grew, the more I saw them for what they really were. At orientation, they asked us to bring a family photo for our identity collage. I didn't have one. I almost printed an old picture of my parents from Facebook. But when I looked closer, I saw it. Me in the background, half out of frame, cropped by the edge of Lindsay's perfect curls. I printed it anyway, wrote underneath it, "Erased but not gone." The professor paused at my table that day. He didn't ask, just nodded like he knew there was more to me than anyone had seen yet. By the time I finished my first semester, I had moved into a shared apartment near campus. I was tutoring, waitressing, and volunteering at the shelter downtown. People started noticing me, not because I was loud, but because I listened. I remembered names. I showed up. I cared. Everything they told me was weakness, turned out to be my strength. Meanwhile, I heard whispers through cousins and distant Facebook posts. Dad had lost his contract job. Lindsay flunked out of her college. Too many parties, not enough attendance. Mom picked up a part-time job at a pharmacy and hated every second of it. They sold the car. Then the second one. Moved to a smaller place. Still, no calls, no messages, just silence. Until one day, 2 years after I walked out, my phone rang. Blocked number. I never answered blocked numbers, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" A pause, then a voice I hadn't heard in 2 years. "Taylor?" I froze. It was Lindsay. "Hey," she said, stretching the word like we were old friends. "So, I know it's been a while." I didn't speak. "Anyway," she continued, "Mom and Dad were wondering if you'd be coming home for the holidays." I let out a slow breath. "Home?" "Yeah, well, I mean, things have been a little rough lately, and they thought, maybe we could put the past behind us." She said it like I had spilled milk, not been thrown out on my birthday like trash. "You want something?" I said quietly. "No," she lied too fast. "It's just, look, Dad needs some help with paperwork. You're good with that stuff. You know how he gets confused sometimes." "Confused?" I laughed. "He was crystal clear when he kicked me out." She went silent, then more carefully. "They said they regret it. They really do." I could hear her voice shaking, but I also heard the TV in the background, The same channel Dad always watched, same volume, same life, still trying to rope me in, still thinking I'd forgotten, still assuming I'd crawl back. But they didn't know the girl they kicked out had built something they couldn't touch. And what I was about to do? I wasn't just going to say no. I was going to show them what it felt like, to lose everything they thought they could control. I didn't rush to answer Lindsay. I let her voice trail off into silence, then hung up without another word. My heart wasn't racing, my hands weren't shaking. It wasn't anger anymore, it was clarity. They wanted me back now because they were sinking. But the truth was, I'd already left them. Not just the house, not just the town. I'd left behind the version of myself who begged to belong to people who built their love like a wall with no door. And instead of calling back, I waited. I watched. 2 weeks later, I saw them in person for the first time since that night. I hadn't planned it. I was dropping off pastries from my bakery, yes, my bakery, to the shelter when I caught sight of them through the glass window of a pawn shop. Dad at the counter trying to sell his watch. Mom standing beside him, holding a stack of jewelry boxes I remembered once being too good for me to touch. Lindsay sat on a chair near the wall, scrolling her phone like the same entitled queen she always was, only now her shoes were scuffed and her purse looked like it had been bought second-hand. I froze outside the shop. My reflection in the glass was unrecognizable. Hair tied neatly, clean jacket, bakery logo embroidered on my chest. For the first time, I wasn't the shadow in their story. I was the one standing on the outside, looking in, deciding what happened next. They didn't notice me, but I noticed everything. The desperation in Dad's eyes. The way Mom kept glancing at the door like she wanted to disappear. The way Lindsay tried to look above it all but couldn't hide the crack in her armor. And that's when I knew. I wouldn't scream at them. I wouldn't throw my success in their faces. No, that would be too easy, too temporary. My revenge had to be quieter, deeper, permanent. I waited until Christmas. That year, the local paper asked to feature me in their Rising Voices series. A bakery owner at 21, a full-ride scholarship student, someone who went from nothing to building something that fed people who had even less. They came to take pictures, me kneading dough, handing out bread at the shelter, smiling behind the counter with my staff. The article ran with the headline, "From Forgotten to Flourishing, the young woman who built a bakery out of brokenness." And guess whose faces I imagined when the paper hit every doorstep in town? Theirs. Because in the article, I didn't hold back. I didn't name them. I didn't need to. But I spoke the truth. I told the world I'd been raised in a house where birthdays went unnoticed, where love had conditions, where silence was punishment and cruelty was tradition. And I told them the moment I was told to get out and never come back was the moment I began living. Neighbors read it. Old family friends read it. Mrs. Jenkins from next door clipped it out and taped it to her fridge. Even teachers I thought had long forgotten me left comments on the online article. "We always knew you'd shine, Taylor." But the best part wasn't the praise. It was the silence that followed. From my parents, from Lindsay. They couldn't argue with my story without outing themselves. They couldn't claim me without admitting what they'd done. They couldn't twist it, because the truth had already cemented itself in print. The next time I heard about them was months later. Someone at the shelter mentioned they'd moved again. Smaller place. Dad couldn't hold a job. Lindsay bouncing between boyfriends. Mom tired and brittle. But me? I was thriving. I expanded the bakery into catering. Hired other kids who'd been tossed aside, just like me. Paid them fairly. Treated them like family. Gave them the birthdays I never had. On my 22nd birthday, the bakery closed early. My staff surprised me with a cake. Candles, balloons, the whole thing. When I blew out the candles, I didn't make a wish. Because I already had it. I had a life they couldn't touch. A family I'd chosen. And parents who once yelled at me to leave, who thought I'd crawl back. They were left with nothing. Exactly what they gave me on the night I turned 19. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.